Welcome to episode 9 of Go the Mission. We out here broadcasting once again from St. Joseph, Michigan. I'm your host, Corey Johnson. Missions is my passion, and I'm thankful for yet another opportunity to educate, enlighten, and encourage those of you who are interested in missions. Whether this is your first time listening or not, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share this with somebody. And you can just search for Go the Mission on just about any podcast provider like Spotify, Apple, Google, and many more. You can also find the show on YouTube. Now, today, my guest is a good friend of mine, a graduate of Palau Mission Academy and one of the world's most influential young people. Miel, what's up?
Hey!
So, Miel, go ahead and give our listeners just a little bit of a background to who you are and what you're up to.
Sure. So my name is Miel Sequiera-Holm. I'm from Palau. I was born and raised here. And I graduated from Palau Mission Academy. And I took a gap year. So I took a year off of school and developed my own reef safe sunscreen business. Which has really helped me grow as a person and learn more about social entrepreneurship. And so after that I went to school in Hawaii for one semester, came back to Palau, and I'm trying to major in liberal arts and Palauan studies.
Okay. That's what's up. And she's also been to several different places in the world representing Heirs to Our Oceans, which is a really important activist group in Palau. And I'm guessing they've got branches all over the world too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's legit. So if you don't know, you got to check that out as well. I'll probably put a little something up so you can go see what they're up to. But Miel, I got to ask you, my opening question for everybody, it's always the same. We got to start it off with figuring out, what does mission and service mean to you?
Usually when I think of mission and service, I think of, things that you do for either if it's like a community or another group of people to like help them better their lives and even like help develop their community. Like I know when I was in PMA, a lot of the student missionaries, they had also traveled to other places in the world and would tell stories of what they did, like just like helping a community like build a place for people to gather to learn more about God. And I think that's one of the most important things with mission and service, is having more people learn more about God and developing that strong relationship with Him.
I like that. And how would you kind of sum up your experience with missionaries?
Oh, can you say that again? You cut off.
Oh, sure. How would you describe your experience with missionaries?
My overall experience has been like pretty positive. I can't really think of any negative experiences. But I can say,
that's good.
Yeah, so, I can say that, I guess the only, real interactions I've had with missionaries are, with the student missionaries from PMA. But I think all of them have been pretty positive, and I've definitely learned a lot from them. Yeah.
All right. That's always reassuring to hear. And so, I'm curious, you were at Palau Mission Academy for 3 years?
For 3 years, yeah.
Okay. And in your time there, do you feel like the missionaries met your definition of missions and service? And if they did, what made it that they met it? And if they didn't, why not?
Well, I think before I went to PMA, I didn't really know what missions and service was. So I think that having the experience of knowing these missionaries has taught me what really is missions and service. And
Interesting.
I think
Okay.
one thing that really like stands out to me, like one thing that I really remember was my freshman year. I was planning to just do 1 year at PMA, and then I was gonna move to Arizona to finish the rest of high school. And so towards the end of my freshman year, my English teacher, Miss Hartline, shout out to Miss Hartline. She wrote me a really,
We're gonna have to get her on the pod one of these days.
yeah, she wrote me a really sweet letter, and she also included some verses that really have helped me when I was in Arizona, just, you know, missing home and struggling and stuff like that. So that was one of like the really important things that stuck with me. And I think another great thing that I've learned with like missions and service is you develop really strong and like really good relationships with the missionaries, and you like become friends, really close friends for life. And I think that's another really cool aspect of it.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So, in your experience, that's different from the other types of education that you've experienced.
Yeah, definitely. Because I wanted to, you know, have an experience of high school here in Palau and then sort of compare it to what it's like in the States. And
Okay.
I think one of the big differences, well, one of the big cultural shocks for me when I was in the States was just like our values, like as Palauan people, like here in the islands, are so different, you know? And
Yeah.
also,
So true.
I think what's really great about having, you know, student missionaries as teachers, or just those people like in your life, they've really, you know, helped me grow as a person and learn more about God. And like you develop a strong bond, you know, teacher and student. And that, I mean, that didn't really happen for me in the States. So yeah, I think that's like one big difference.
Okay. So I think I resonate with that because I don't know how many, there's very few, I can put it that way. There are very few teachers that I experienced in my school experience here that I still am in contact with or even would consider to be friendly. And most of that is because of, you know, if I were to say that I was doing mission work overseas, that same kind of spirit and mentality that I saw in missionaries over there, I've seen in few teachers here, and those are the ones that I'm in contact with still, oddly enough. So there's something there.
There's something
Yeah.
there.
If you had to share just a few of your favorite moments with missionaries, or things that you did with, things that they did that you really appreciated, what would some of those things be?
I think my best memories with like the missionaries would be like just in the classroom. I know this is like not great, but you know, sometimes you go off topic, and and like we really learn more like about their life and experiences, and like learning more about them and what they've learned, like that can really apply to us students. And I think another one would be Spirit Week, when we hear all the teachers give their testimonies. That's really powerful. I always love Spirit Week. Like, yeah, I really appreciate that, for them to be brave enough and, you know, tell their story even when it's hard. I really appreciated that, and I know a lot of the students also did and learned from that as well.
Awesome. on the flip side of that, do you think there are moments with missionaries that maybe weren't the best, or something that they did that you just didn't like, or maybe lost respect for them for? If it's anyone in particular, you don't have to say a name.
There's one particular moment that like I have in mind.
Okay, tell us about that.
It's not really a big deal, but I was a freshman and we were having lunch, and I guess one of the lunch ladies was like couldn't be there, so a lot of students were getting their lunch late, and I happened to be one of those students. And one of the the teachers was like really rushing me and telling me to like hurry up and eat, like you need to get to class. Just was, I don't know, he seemed pretty insensitive about it, and I didn't really like that.
Just rubbed you the wrong way.
Yeah.
And that's fair, because, you know, I'm all about missions, but I would be a liar if I said that everything a missionary touched turned to gold, or everything a missionary did was the greatest thing ever. I think, and part of the reason that I'm doing this and asking these questions is because I want missionaries to know, potential missionaries to know, it's more than just going out there and doing whatever job you might have signed up to do, because you can do that here. You know, your contrast of the things that you liked about what missionaries do and the stories they're able to share, and the way that you can connect with them in different ways. It also goes in perfect contrast with a moment where they may be treating it more of just a job and not necessarily being concerned as much with the people for the sake that they're people.
Yes.
And that to me that's what it should all be about. Like, it should always be about people as opposed to programs. And I like what you said about the willingness for teachers, either because they want to or because they're being a little naive, of going off topic in class.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if we're being real, of course there were times where students are just asking questions because they know they'll get a teacher in the rabbit hole and they'll never learn that chemistry thing, and that's exactly what they want. But there's other times too when they actually want to know, and there's really cool connecting moments that are able to be built there. And that, to me, you know, as a missionary teacher, that's one of the things I liked the most, was the fact that, I'll tell you, when you're teaching and you don't get any feedback and your students aren't interested in anything, it's hard. It's so much easier when someone asks a question, because as soon as they do, you know there's an interest there, so you just take it and run with it.
Yeah.
So I like that. That's funny. But, you know, little insight, maybe that'll make some teachers not feel as bad, and maybe some will feel a little bad, but we'll see. They'll be all right.
They'll be all right.
So, I'm curious, because in your experience it's different, because you grew up in Palau, but you didn't always go to the mission school. So what was your education background before getting to PMA within Palau?
Well, I went to Maria Stella, which is a Catholic school.
Okay.
I went there from 1st grade to 5th grade, and then I went to STA for my 6th grade year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then went back to Maria Stella for my 7th and 8th grade. I think like one of the reasons I went to STA was because like my best friend, Mea, she wasn't gonna be in Palau that like for our 6th grade year or something, and I was like, you know what? I want to try out SDA. So
okay.
So I went to SDA for a year, and I really did like it, and I think it was actually perfect that I went for a year, because then I got to meet like all of my classmates, you know, that I would be with in high school. So it was really awesome to like create that bond first, and you know, reunite with them in high school.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to Maristela for most of my elementary school years, and so yeah, I most of the stuff that I learned about God was like from Catholicism, and like going to mass, and um, I never like I was never baptized, and I never became like Catholic. I'm not sure why. My mom said that like once I learned about confession, and I was like, oh my gosh, no, I don't want to do that.
Well, that's fair. I mean, because it can be a little intimidating. I would assume.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so what you only had a year at SDA Elementary School. What do you think was the biggest difference in that year as opposed to the rest of the years that you spent at Maristella?
The biggest difference, I think, the biggest difference, like academically and socially, was I don't want to like seem negative about it, but I was really surprised with sort of the behavior of the students at STA. Like I was expecting like them to be like really well behaved and like STA. and I don't know, like my classmates were very different from like the classmates I had in 6th grade at SCA. But I really did love like the program with like all the different subjects, and then also having like PE like more than once a week, because we only had PE once a week at Maristella.
Really?
And then of course like the playground, like that always got me as a kid. Just, like I love that.
That still gets me right now. One of my favorite places to hang out.
Yeah.
I appreciate you being real with it, because I know a lot of times it seems, especially for people coming into this idea of missions and you're going overseas, I've had people tell me that they were surprised that what I was doing was actually mission work. They didn't think that it was, because it's in their mind it's just an Adventist school that's in paradise.
Yeah.
But they don't realize like yeah, it is paradise. I'm definitely not taking away from that. But you're still dealing with and this is what I tell them, like less than 5% of the kids in SDA are SDA. And so you're dealing with many different kids that are raised in so many different kind of ways. You can't assume anything about it, as I know some of my friends and people that I've talked to about serving out there have done. And so I like that you're willing to talk about the reality of what it looks like in there, and that it's not all perfect and it's not always easy. I think that's something that missionaries going into the mission field need to be aware of. You are going to have to go out there and do more than just chill and do lesson plans and teach in a classroom. And and there's all different kinds of ways that you can be of a greater benefit and an impact out there in the lives of young people. So that's important, definitely important to know. What would you say were your biggest growing experiences with a missionary, or things that you learned from them that you hadn't, I guess, been exposed to in the other areas of your experience?
It's a hard question. It's kind of hard to like pinpoint one thing that like I've learned from like the missionaries. Gosh. I think, well, I can say that one of my favorite classes was Bible class, which was your class.
Hey.
Because like I identify myself as like a Christian, but I've never really like been part of a like particular religion, just because like I'm not like really sure, like we've talked about this before, like I don't know, like how do you know which one is like true or correct, or so I've just like identified myself as just being a Christian. And like being in Bible class was really great because I got to ask like questions, and even though I didn't get like straight up answers, it was still really great to ask those questions and have that discussion, because then I learned more about God. And God isn't, you aren't gonna get just like simple answers. Sometimes it's just like you gotta figure it out yourself. But yeah, I've definitely learned more about God and strengthened my relationship with Him because of you guys, teachers, and just being in that atmosphere at school. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Like, I guess it's a misconception that if I'm in an Adventist school, that I'm gonna be gung-ho about telling everybody that Adventism is the only way to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's definitely not my I don't see that as part of my mission, being a missionary there. I think, as you pointed out, you said it like perfectly. There's other things that are important. Like, you got young people who are dealing with these kind of issues, those kind of issues, and who need an opportunity to figure things out for themselves. And that's definitely one thing that I really try to do, and a reason that I'm so appreciative of your response there, because for me growing up, I grew up in the SDA system all the way through, K through, first through 12th grade. It was all Adventism, and as a result, I took it for granted because it's all that I knew. And even though my dad, he told me two things. You know this. Always ask questions and always look to Jesus. Those are the two things.
Yep.
And it wasn't until I started asking questions for myself that I started to own my religion and why I believed in the things that I did.
Yes.
And that opportunity right there is what I wanted to focus on giving you guys as students. I felt that was more important than me just trying to tell you what was right and saying everything else was wrong.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that too. I think like my first year at PMA, or like sort of like in the beginning of being at PMA and learning more about what the Seventh-day Adventist religion is, I did kind of feel like it was being taught as like being Seventh-day Adventist, that is the one and only way, but towards the end of my high school years, especially with you being our teacher, I really did like realize that it's not like that. And also with the prophecy and stuff, like that was really eye-opening, but also I had like even more questions.
Right, of course.
And I remember like in like my freshman year where we would have worship in the morning, and one of the teachers did this like prophecy worship thing, and it was about how Catholicism and like the Pope, like that kind of thing about the beast. And then I was like, oh my gosh, they're totally like putting down Catholic people. And then I learned later that it's not about people who are Catholic. It's that it's Catholicism, the system. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
People always got to respect people, no matter what they believe, no matter what their background is.
Exactly.
Always got to respect people. That's what's up. So, can you think of any advice or encouragement that you would have given missionaries during your experience with them?
Advice or encouragement? Well, I can imagine, being away from home is tough, because I've definitely experienced that, and I've known, a couple missionaries who maybe have lost a family member or a close friend while they were here. And I know that's like really tough not to be able to go back home and be with family and stuff. So I think an encouragement would just be to like stay strong and be grateful for what you do have, and being able to be here in Palau and meet new people and make connections with students and people in the church and in the community. And yeah.
I like that. Do you think there's anything that missionaries should know before coming? Like, from your perspective, anything that they might need to know before giving up a big chunk of time to go be a missionary? And I guess I'm asking this question more in relation to Palau in particular, the experience there, the culture there, those types of things.
I think that missionaries who decide to come to Palau should definitely learn about like our culture, our values, how respect is one of our biggest values here.
Mercy.
And yeah.
I say that more as a slight to America, even though I'm an American.
Yeah.
But I'm a Palauan, really. But it's true. And I'm going to ask you a question later. But go ahead, keep going.
Oh, and just to, because I know, like, I guess I know some foreigners who like have been here in Palau that have sort of just not really respected Palauans, or think that because they're not from here that they're like better or more educated than Palauans. I think it's
Makes
important.
me so ashamed.
I think it's important to remind them that like you're a guest here, so just
yes,
like remember that, and we will treat you as a guest, and you show respect to one another, and I think that's really important. And also just to learn more about our culture and our traditions, because it is so beautiful, honestly.
Yes. It really is.
Yeah.
I tell you, like, all this time in quarantine, more if I'm not doing schoolwork or wasting time watching Netflix, I'm going through my videos and pictures and stuff of Palau. And just going back on like the different holidays, the events in school, the things that we would do, the things that we would go see and explore. And I'm like, man, it's tough to be in Michigan right now. It is tough to be here when I think of that I was there. Yeah. It's so tough. Like when I see the sun, I get excited. I see the sun. I'm like, yes, it's gonna be a nice day. I go outside and it's like 40 degrees. I'm like, what is that? I can't deal with that. I looked at the forecast. Today was the only day with sun in the forecast. The next 4 days, it's gonna be cold and rainy.
Oh my goodness.
At least when it rained in Palau, you could expect the sun. Yeah, it would be humid right afterwards, but the sun would pop out right after the rain. Like, you never had to wait too long before the sun would come back out again. People don't understand. And like, People don't understand.
Oh man, I feel bad for you. I can only
Me
imagine.
I'm
Oh man,
struggling.
you need to come back soon.
I do. You know, I was going to before all this Corona stuff started
Yeah.
happening. I was gonna be there for the end of the school year.
Mm-hmm.
I'll figure something out. I gotta make it back.
Yeah.
I'm even repping right now.
Come on now.
Hey.
So you mentioned something. You mentioned it twice actually, and so that really got my attention on it. The difference in values. I think there's a lot that can be learned there in the difference of values, because you've seen it on the American side from Americans in Palau, and even from your time here in America compared to the Palau and value system.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest differences you see there?
I think one of the biggest differences is like individualism. Like in the US, you know, everyone looks out for themselves, and you know, I think here in Palau, we always take care of each other, and it's not just, you know, one person for themselves. If one person needs help, like, you know, we have a lot of family to take care of you. And I think another big difference is me and my mom were actually we've talked about this a lot, but sort of the scarcity mentality in the US, that there's not enough for everyone. But like,
Oh my, yes.
We saw that with toilet paper
right?
Over the last couple months.
My goodness, people tripping out here.
I know, but you know, here in Palau, and I know in a lot of like indigenous cultures, we have that, like, there's more than enough. Like, you know, we don't have to be greedy, because we know we can always share with each other. We're always caring for each other, and just that sense of community, you know, out here. Yeah.
Oh man, I agree with that 100%. And like for those of you guys listening, I was blessed to be in Palau for 5 years, and even the first year when I was there, I felt like family. Like, people were taking care of me. I didn't have need for anything. I didn't go out there with a lot, but there was never a moment where I didn't have anything that I needed. And you know, I'm a foreigner, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not native to Palau, but when I was there, they treated me like one of their own. And I have to keep saying this, and I say it because it's true. I'm not trying to hype up Palau when I say this, but I felt more at home in Palau than I do in America. It's true. And you know, I've met some cool people being back here this year, but overall it has not changed the fact that I still feel, after being back here in the States for a year now, I still feel more at home there than I do here, which is so odd because this is where I was born. Like, this is where I grew up. And such a, you know, 5 years, I'm 32. 5 years is not like the biggest chunk of my life, but in that little window of my life, I felt more at home and comfortable with the people I was around, and as a result, more comfortable with who I was as a person, who I am as a person, because of that community experience. So that right there, it's so valuable. And you just got me thinking on it just right now. Like, I'm not even planning to say this right now, but like, it gave me like a sense of knowing who I was and how I fit into everything, going away from all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when I think of students who they think they have it figured out in their college experience, I was one of those students. And when I went to Palau after I graduated, I realized I had nothing figured out. And, you know, I came back from that 1 year, and I was here in the States doing different things for a few years and thought I had figured things out. I went back to Palau, and again, I realized I had nothing figured out. And every single year of the last 4 years that I was there was a learning and growing experience. And now it's finally gotten into my head that I just don't know it all, and I'm not going to know it all. Life continues to be a growing experience. And so now, I never would have said one of my favorite things to do is learn. I never would have said that. I hated school. In grade school and in high school, I hated it. Like, literally, all I wanted to get grades for was so I could be on the basketball team. That was it. And, actually learning the material, that's not something that ever came out of my experience until being in Palau. That's what gave me an appreciation for learning. Being there and realizing how much I didn't know. Like, man, it just opened up the whole world to me. Like, there's so much out there, so much different rich cultures and people to experience. Like, it's impossible. It's impossible to have it all figured out if you stay in one culture and only experience one. Absolutely impossible. So, yeah, that's a little more than I was thinking I would say.
No, that's great.
There, but
it's good
it is what
too.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm wondering if you have a reason, maybe an answer to this question. And I know your experience with missionaries is limited, but I still think it's worth asking you this one. Why should missionaries take the time to go serve?
Why should they? Well, I think one thing that first comes to my mind is something my mom told me that her dad would tell her and her siblings, is that true happiness is serving others well. And when you're helping someone out and you see that they're happy, and that makes you happy when you're serving them, serving others well. And I think that's a big reason to be a missionary and to do service, because you end up helping a lot of people, whether it's academically or emotionally or spiritually. That can really help you as well grow as a person and learn more about yourself as well. So yeah,
absolutely. I like that. Do you think that missionaries really make a difference?
I think they do. From personal experience, I can definitely say that they do make a difference. I think I would I don't know what I would be doing or what kind of person I would be if I didn't go to PMA, honestly, because I think being around people who truly love God and want to serve Him and help others, and also developing those bonds and friendships with those people has definitely been a huge positive impact in my life, especially this part of my life is so important to growing and learning more about myself.
So those things that you were able to experience because of them, they're actually continuing to be a benefit to you even now.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it's always nice reconnecting with them and updating what they've been up to. Yeah.
That's what's up. And it's definitely true. You know how it is. So, any final words? Anything you want to let the people know before we wrap up this episode on the pod?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for this opportunity and being interviewed by you and being part of this podcast. And to people listening, I think that if you are ever thinking of going into missions or service, especially going out to another country or into a different culture, you should definitely do that, and also do your research on, cultural differences, and just learn more about the people, and I think you would definitely benefit from it.
All right, I agree 100%, and I'm gonna leave it right there.
I'm gonna leave it right there.
Miel, I gotta thank you for being willing to take some time to chat with me on the pod. Really awesome to hear from you again, and to hear your perspectives on so many of these different things that I didn't know before. So that's really cool.
Thank you.
And y'all, no problem. And to all of you who are listening to this episode, I gotta thank you as well. This has been Go the Mission, and once again, this is your host, Corey Johnson. Just want to remind you that every other weekend, a new podcast is going to drop, and on whatever platform you're tuning in on, like, subscribe, and share so we can continue to get the mission out there. If you have any questions about missions, or you're wondering how to be a missionary, let me know. You can reach me by email using gothemission@gmail.com, or feel free to drop a comment or message through social media or YouTube. And finally, remember, to exist is not enough. We out here to be out here. Until next time, peace.